I'm Quint,
I'm Aron,
and together we're Quent Aron.
and we may or may not be recording this, may or may not work, may or may not be our 20th attempt at this, and I may or may not have had enough coffee for this bullshit, so hold on. Nope, definitely not enough.
I'm going to do a little plug for Black Rifle there.
Coffee saves Black Rifle. Hashtag sponsor people who get no views. I bought the coffee for the funny commercials. I stayed because the coffee's amazing. And it is. And I need it.
It is. And yes.
I'm tired and I am not feeling it. I need the caffeine. Perhaps a brain transplant, a few things like that. You never know.
Nah.
I'm tired. Who would think being down to one job would make me so tired? I just have a job in school.
Yeah, there's nothing overwhelming about that. And kids and a husband who really qualifies as a child. And yeah.
Hi, Rob. He's our one viewer. Guess we can't smack talk him. We need him to hit the like button.
Hey, my husband counts as a child also.
Fact. They all do.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's kind of maybe a topic we could talk about today is family function or dysfunction and generational differences. In particular, what I've been thinking about is, oh my God, my microphone's driving me crazy. Hold on a second. I might have to Gorilla Glue that shit where it needs to be. God. No, it's just to slowly slide back. You would think there's some way to, no, I'm totally not holding it. I don't know what you're talking about. I know how to do it.
Not at all. You're also very echoey, and I think it's just your surroundings.
Really?
Yeah.
We're this far into it, and now you want to talk to me about echoing?
No, I don't.
So I guess we're just going to have to start again because
no.
I can't get the microphone to stay in the position I want it. I'm going to need a screwdriver. I don't think I've had enough coffee to safely operate a screwdriver.
I don't know. Is it a Phillips head or a flat head?
It's a Phillips head. Of course it's a Phillips head. My Zen tools don't work. I want to go get a screwdriver. Damn it. Sucker, right? Motherfucker.
You know you're wearing headphones. I can't hear her at all.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is our one fan. He's the one guy who hits the like button. Thank you very much. And we may have to pay. I may have to pay him sexual favors, but hey, it's okay. It's what you have to do to get the job done because I'm dedicated to my craft.
Well, I like how you corrected that from we to I.
Don't get any plans.
Make punch.
Oh, wait, come back. Is there bacon involved?
There could be bacon involved.
Speaking of sexual favors, no, let's just go with bacon. So, I could have some bacon.
Could have offered you sausage, but I think that's already on the plate.
I think we've already done the 2-for-1 sausage deal.
You went back to one.
Rob can't hear you, so he has no idea what's going on.
I have no idea what you're saying.
He said he already brought the sausage to the table.
Ah.
I said it was 2-for-1.
Logo?
You know the one we did logo.
I'm gonna make food. You guys have fun.
Sometimes I wonder how I stay married. I don't know, but there's bacon involved, so fuck it, bitches. I might survive. Got bacon and coffee.
Oh.
And a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm good to go. That I keep in my china cabinet. This is why we can't have nice things.
Or podcasts. Because technology is great.
I'm telling you, we need to stop editing out all our gaffes and just leave it in. our viewers need to realize we're idiots, and they just need to see it and accept it and just come back for it. It's like the Hot Mess Express. Hey, watch these ladies on the struggle bus. Boop, boop. Shh, hop on, quick, get on the struggle bus. Don't know what we're doing. Beep, beep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, struggle bus.
I think even with editing, it's pretty clear we're on the struggle bus and the driver is drunk and we're off on like an old dirt road with a cliff on probably both sides.
Funny story. My brother was on a bus on an old dirt road that did go over the cliff. The driver was not, however, drunk. Sometimes I think funny things in my head. I'm embracing this. We're going to have a 15-minute podcast where only 30 seconds make sense. I think that's where we need to go with this. Yeah, so families like that, like my poor husband putting up with my bullshit. Yeah, and playing along with it. But not all families are good. And in our series, I think, and in a lot of books and series written, there is kind of an unhealthy family dynamic. I would have to say Cruiser and Fletcher's family dynamic is excessively unhealthy.
Ooh, so bad.
Yeah, and I think the key there is parents in particular are very good at kind of, some of them, manipulating and controlling. There is a really solid argument that you need to manipulate to lead. It's whether or not what you're doing benefits the person and is to make them better, or whether or not you're doing it just for you and your own selfish needs. I think with Cruiser, we see that repeatedly with both of his dads. One who just beat the living shit out of him because he was a mean alcoholic and a drunk, and one who used a much more subtle and arguably harder to spot and more damaging way of psychologically and emotionally abusing him to the point where he didn't even realize it till he was what, in his 30s?
Oh, he might have been later than that when we finally have him realizing exactly that was abuse. So it took him a long time. Like it's very easy to understand that physical abuse is wrong. And even in his setting, I think it was just the norm growing up when he was in that situation. That's what he knew. He didn't have an outside perspective because he was so young. But as an adult, that really feeds into his need to protect the weak and the powerless. And you see that over and over again. And I think it's probably one of the driving forces that goes into just the character that he is. But when it comes to the emotional abuse and how that feeds into who he is, he had no idea, no clue. And that it's a much more deceptive manipulation.
Well, and that's with the physical abuse, there's a bruise, there's a mark. Mm-hmm. And even then it's hard to realize that that's not normal. That's not what a loving parent does. It takes a certain amount of introspection and separation from it. And I don't know if a lot of kids get that, that your parental figure who's supposed to love you above all else and put you first, doing that to you. I mean, it leaves PTSD, which he had before he ever got into the military and ever got into his adopted family, who had a completely separate form of abuse. But what he could not get was that in both cases, it was never his fault.
Yeah.
And then that's a key driving thing. I think at some point he realized that, deep down, he always knew that hitting a child was wrong. He was able to accept the fact that his dad was a drunk and an asshole. But his father, who psychologically fucked with him and emotionally abused the shit out of him, withheld food, the typical controlling, over-controlling parent. It was decades before that caught up with him. The only thing with him is that he did not replicate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's an important distinction for Cruiser, is that he really refers to his biological dad, who was physically abusive, as his dad, and his adoptive father that was emotionally abusive as his father. And that it's a very clear distinction between the two of them, and in Cruiser's head, and also like in the writing, it kind of keeps things separate too. But yeah, that was I forgot what you said.
I get that a lot. The clear distinction is important, and his real cathartic moment is when he realized he was never at fault. But even with that, he never replicated the pattern.
Yeah.
He was able, I think, in part because of Wolf and the team and finding another family. And that's kind of like the overlying theme, is that family is not always blood. You know, blood is thicker than water, sure, but sometimes you don't need that. You know, a toxic person is a toxic person, and on no level should Cruiser ever have felt bad about walking away from either one of them. But he did about his father. He carried that guilt around forever, and it was never his to have. And even Katie, who in some ways is so much more emotionally mature than him, could not break through to him. You know, he could not really feel that self-worth until he made that peace in his head. And I think that speaks volumes for how easy it is for a parent to fuck up their kids, and how important it is for the kids to know that's not your fault. There is a certain point in your life as an adult where it's now on you. You know, you're 25, you're 30. It's now on you to do the work and the introspection, and to realize my past is my past, and I am worth the time and the energy to become a better person. At some point, nobody else, no, I don't think it's on you. Nobody else can do that but you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find the right people in your life, if you find the right spot within you, you can get there. And I think with the team, that spot was finding this incredibly functional, dysfunctional family that they have. None of them can make it on their own. Their flaws and their positive traits will get them killed solo. Absolutely. Cruiser would die in a bar fight. Dex would die in a horrible explosion in a lab. Chance would be killed by a jealous husband. Fletcher, God only knows how he would go. It would involve explosions. Possibly Wolf would be there.
It would be a plane crash. He would be doing something stupid in a plane, and then it would crash. Probably because Chance scammed it off of a place called Beeline Airlines.
They have a great record. Didn't they fly into that mountain last week? That's why they're so good right now.
They're under a microscope. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, except for this plane that's on fire and crashing into that mountain. But that's cool. That's cool. I'm just gonna pop out the plane now. Peace out, nerds. Actually, Fletcher was the last one to jump out.
No, he was not.
He was. He was the captain. He was absolutely the last one. Yes. He pushed Cruiser out.
He did push Cruiser out. Cruiser deserved it, though.
Yeah. Dex went first. Chance went second. Cruiser pushed Emery out third. Wolf went after her. Yeah, the captain.
Guess who doesn't know how to jump? Emery.
And why would we know how to do this?
You run with mercenaries. But
I run with mercenaries, and I also don't know how to go in and make explosives. You know why? I'm not a mercenary.
A training deficit. It's a training deficit.
Oh, I think it's probably a thinking deficit on the end of the jump master. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll get to have that conversation next. But
so they agreed to never talk about it again.
Hey Declan. It's
Where?
late. Not there anymore. You'll see in the video.
6'4"?
Yes.
6 foot fair, shaggy hair. Yeah, it's either Bigfoot or Declan. It's hard to tell. It
looks like there's like a rug over his head.
No, it's like a Sean Cassidy kind of like double windswept thing, except he got hair like a sea otter, so it's more like an A-frame house with the portcullis off the side. And I'd make more fun of him for it, but my generation brought you the perm. So I really can't talk that much. So you have at it. But that's kind of the thing, like if you were an over-controlling parent, you'd be like, no, you can't do that. You can't wear your hair like that. You're a reflection of me. Oh no, baby. I made my mistakes. You can go ahead and do yours. And I could totally be wrong. That might be a super fashionable haircut, but I'm still going to snicker. I love you.
Yes.
I'm going to giggle just a little bit. And I don't know outside of Dex if any of them really got that. I mean, Wolf had a relatively stable upbringing, but his mother is absolutely over controlling.
Yeah, she never really lets that go now, does she?
No, she does
No.
not.
I think childhood wise, Chance had as good a shot as any of them, but he managed, of course, to fuck it up himself and create that turmoil on his own, because Edie was there for him. She straightened him out. But
he didn't really fuck that up on his own. He got kind of fucked by being abandoned and being put into a bad situation.
Yeah, there is that.
I think when Edie came into his life, he tested a boundary. She said it, and it's absolutely the one thing that saved his life, is that there was a person in his life who loved him enough to set a boundary that was a reasonable boundary. Like, you can't be stealing cars and you're going to get shot. You're going to die. I love you too much. And she loved him enough to let him suffer the consequences, but she supported him.
Mm-hmm. And she was there.
She never belittled him for it. She never blamed him for it. She gave him, it was a mistake and I love you. And she visited him and supported him and had an open door, and it never affected her love. His actions did not affect how much she loved him. She didn't approve of them. And when it became a life or death situation, she put down that hard boundary, but she loved him through the discipline. And that's something he had never experienced before. And it's something he goes on to really thrive under with Wolf.
Yeah.
Because Chance's own personalities and issues and instabilities make him just a freaking danger to himself.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun, but dear Lord, his life expectancy would be like 12 if he didn't have someone to rein his ass back in.
Yeah, no, he is
not
super self-destructive.
Yeah, not control him, because you're not going to control that dude.
No, you have to channel that energy.
You have to channel
into less deadly areas.
Or like Jackie, I think really the key with him and Fletcher is that Fletcher never expects anything less of him. Fletcher believes in him. Fletcher knows he won't do that to him. And because of that absolute, unconditional, unwavering love and support, he will never break that.
Yeah, and he really hates that.
And that platypus tattoo. Correct answer for that is it's a griffin.
It's a griffin.
Semi-aquatic mammal. And wait a second, isn't that a platypus?
It's a griffin. Yeah. Bane of his existence, and he's never going to be able to get rid of it.
Because as vain as he is, as everything, Fletcher needs that. So that's just how it is.
It's just going to stay.
I think Edie was the start of Chance's family. And then the team and Wolf, and then he's actually able to establish his own family, which is a little different looking than a traditional monogamous relationship, because Chance and Jackie, but it's absolutely a loving, supportive relationship that functions and puts their kids first, which are something that very few of them had.
Yeah.
And I think the key difference in how the kids are going to be raised, especially with Juliet, you see it, is a narcissistic parent, an abusive parent, an over-controlling parent. That kid is never fucking first. It's all about what they want, what they need. And the team as a unit and as a family raises kids who know beyond a shadow of a doubt they're number one in their family's lives. And as much guilt as Cruiser feels about having to pop in and out of Juliet's life, Juliet feels nothing but gratitude because she knows hands down she's number one in his life, and he will always be there for her, and he will always make sure she's taken care of. He is a major safety net, and that allows her to be the person that really Cruiser could have been.
Yeah, and I think one of the big overarching themes is that you make things better for the next generation. Like every single one of the characters, arguably outside of Wolf and Dex, Dex more so, but outside of those two, they all had shit childhoods for one varying reasons, but they all had childhoods that really should not be modeled after. And despite their shortcomings and their flaws, they over the whole series work, and you see them make it better in the end for the next generation. And that's, as a parent, that's all anybody can hope for.
That should be your number one goal. You should not be competing with your kids or trying to control your kids. What the end
or
goal
being
is,
friends with your kids. You. Yes.
Yeah, no, they've got lots of friends out there. I'm not your friend. I'm not your buddy. I'm your mom.
Yeah.
I will love you in places where your friends won't, and that's okay. Yeah. It's a different relationship, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
We laugh. We have a good time. We do all sorts of things, stupid things, funny things. But I'm not your friend.
Yep. One of my favorite things that my youngest would always tell me is she'd get super angry at me and she'd be like, "I'm not your friend anymore." Like, child, I was never your friend. I am your mother. We need to clear this up real quick.
It's entirely different. And you're still not allowed to run out into the street. I hate to break this to you.
Still not allowed, even though you really just, you got me in the feels right there.
No. But
you tried, because you're two.
I give you a good effort. Give you an A for effort.
Yeah. But you see it largely with Cruiser because from the start of the series, he is in a parental role with Juliet, and you see that he feels bad about not being able to be a stable figure in her life, and he sees all of his shortcomings. That's what he's really good at, is he is convinced that he's just the worst. And largely because that's what he's had fed into him. Like his dad beat him.
Largely because sometimes he is, just saying, a little bit. Not all. Sorry, that was Emery.
But why?
That's what he was raised to believe.
But he was, like, his dad beat him. His father emotionally manipulated him into thinking that he was never any good. He was always evil, always bad. And that's, like, at the core, even though he hates both of those people, like that seeds itself into who he is, and it gets into his psyche. And so he's very comfortable being in that bad role and nobody liking him, including himself. And, despite all of that, his actions speak volumes compared to his words. And you always see when he is stateside, Juliet is his priority. Katie is his priority. And then he gets pulled in all these other demanding directions. But where he wants to be is a homebody with his family.
But it's interesting because he's like, he thinks he doesn't have any stability to offer Juliet, but he has been stable in the most significant way possible. His love and commitment to her has never wavered.
Yeah.
That's the type of stability a kid really needs. And that is why Juliet, in spite of her circumstances, is so much more emotionally healthy than they will ever be.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the key takeaway. Like, I see a lot of parents relating to their kids in these different ways and being like, "Oh, I gave you this, I gave you that." Well, It's kind of our job.
Yeah. Part of the deal.
We had you. It's our job to feed you, clothe you, help you, offer discipline without control, allow you to grow and admit us and become better parents than we were, or better at whatever you want to do. And if we're not doing that, well, that's our fault because we're the fucking grown-ups. Like,
Yeah.
you don't get to yell at kids like that. And seeing how the team kind of relates and goes through it is sort of these extreme examples of where the hell that leads up to. So for as much shit as we give millennials and Gen Z and all the other crap, we bear a big part of that. That's part on us, but we can't expect to be raising clones of ourselves. We can't expect to be raising entire human beings that we control down to the millisecond. And hey, anyone out there with toxic parents and going through toxic shit, just remember, it's not you. And the only thing you can do, as hard as it is, take a step back and realize that figure is a human that has flaws, not a reflection of you. And you go and do whatever you need to make yourself better. It's not going to be, drugs, alcohol, promiscuity. That's all just a Band-Aid for it. Go get the help and find the people that you need, that work with you, that make you feel like you're better until you can get to the spot where you believe it yourself, because you are better. Yeah. It sounds like an oversimplification, but it's not. You can get there. You can get out of this. These guys did it, granted in a very big explosion kind of way, and lots of fun in that. But they put in the work. They found people. Everyone's broken. They found people who were broken in ways that's compatible with them, that makes each other person feel better and not less. And once you get to the point where you can do that, you can work on you and you can be a better person. And I'll just get off my soapbox now, but
well,
I've just seen some shit. I've been the age of my kids. I've seen some shit that just, and you're helpless to stop it because it's not abuse. It's just bad parenting.
Yeah.
And you see the kids, they're 17, 18, 19 now, struggling with this shit that, like, hey, babe, not you. You work on you. Let the parents work on the parents. Unless you're my kid, then I'm perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Just picture. How do you do that? Perfect. I don't know. There, picture. No, still not. Can't even do it right. This, except that loser.
Perfect. Yeah, oh no, we all make fucking mistakes, but
well, and I think it speaks to the real life of things too, because my background is not by any means perfect, and like I've put in a lot of work to get through college and make a lot of changes and make things better for my kids than I ever had it. And you have too. Like those are trials and tribulations that they're different for everybody, but they're also universal in most cases. Like even when I was in high school, even like the most affluent people that I knew had problems, like significant family problems, and that turned into like other emotional problems that they had to overcome, or hopefully they've overcome. But there isn't a family life out there that doesn't leave a kid with something to overcome. But it's just the way it is.
And I think though the difference is when it comes down to being toxic or not toxic, which is the big buzzword, but
oh yeah,
I think when you're toxic, your kids feel like they were a burden and less. But I think if they know, like, My kids, even after the biggest fights, would say, "You two boys are the best thing your father and I will ever do with our life. Flat out, your two girls are the best things you and your husband will ever do. No matter how their life turns out, no matter what they go on to do, there's two miracles that we got to take part in.
Yeah.
How we treat it, what we do with it. But that's just the truth. They're the greatest things we'll ever take part of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not saying if you don't have kids, you don't have that. No, you just have different things. But if you want a family, if you want children that grow on to be better than you, they need to know that you believe that. You believe they are the best thing that's going to happen to you. And, you know, sometimes they go have their own issues and crash and burn, but sometimes you have to watch them crash and burn.
Everybody's got to learn their lessons the way that they learn. And sometimes that's not the easy way. Sometimes it's the hard way. You know, and I think chance. And I think that's very true when it comes to all of the characters. You know, Chance winds up how
not
professional.
My phone. Hey, it's my mom, and I gotta tell you what, I'm gonna text her while we're doing this because I'm still a little afraid of her because it's my mom. We're just gonna go right there.
Yeah, I think
half an hour.
I like your inability to read quietly.
It's type quietly, thank you very much. My kids assure me I'm a boomer, although I'm a Gen Xer. I have to use my big fat meaty thumbs to text with, and I just smash the keys and random buttons pop up. Usually I try talk to text, but then it gives me weird shit.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
But I think we're going to have to cut this off here because we've gone well past our 10 minutes. We might be able to make this into 2. Who the fuck knows? But I want to say, like, what Wolf and each other brings to that team is this idea that these guys are better. Like, they're better as a unit than they are as individuals. But it's all about elevating each other in the way that families should do. Mm-hmm. Even when you have fights, even when you fuck up, even when you do stupid shit, it's that feeling there. And if you're not feeling that, get out.
Yeah.
Or change it.
Yeah, and I think, you know,
change you because you can't change that.
We never really planned it, and it's not super obvious, but in the overarching course of the series, you really see Wolf and Emery in the parental figures kind of roles, and Chance and Fletcher.
Emery just got hives.
Yeah, she did. Chance and Fletcher are very much brother, like lower brothers, because Dex and Cruz younger.
Dex and Cruz are like that favorite uncle. Fletch and Chance together are like two drunken toddlers on a tirade.
Yeah, but there's very much a family structure, and then Cruiser and Chance wind up with kids, but they all wind up with those kids. Like, Juliet is every bit part of the, you know, Wolf and Emery's family as Chance's kids, whose names I've forgotten at this moment. But
Ethan
and what? Owen. Is it Ethan and Owen?
I think so. I can't remember my own damn kids' names, and I picked them up, so this is totally acceptable.
Wait,
and then
we also picked these kids' names.
Yeah. Then we also have Micah, who's just an extended adopted kid who has his own family, but happens into another wonderful family who accepts him for exactly what the hell he is.
I was literally, before we started this podcast, just reading the introduction of Micah, and I have to say, I absolutely love it. Like, Micah is great. I love his mom beating Cruiser with a broom.
That's his aunt.
True.
Hey, he looks like a leather daddy, and this kid is way too young for that. No. You keep your old pedophile hands to yourself.
He's genuinely offended by that.
I love the fact it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a gay relationship. It's everything to do with the fact that he is too old and he's just not the right type. No, you are not good enough. That, my friend, is love. It doesn't care how she was raised and all of that. That all goes out the window when this kid meets her, and this is who he is. So fine, this is my pre-held conceptions are just going to have to change. And they do. And then she's just like this fierce pit bull who, and when she realizes that this dude is absolutely not, he's not a 30-some-year-old trying to date her 16-year-old nephew. He's just a guy making sure he got home okay. Then he can have it. He can come in. Then she'll stop hitting him with a broom. Although, as offended as he was, you have to admit, Cruiser was a little impressed at that level of protection. That's what he would have done if he was a very small woman with a broom.
Oh, he understands it perfectly. And the only part that he's offended by is the fact that she thinks he's a pedophile.
The pedophile, yeah, well, you know, come up all dressed in leathers, all sweaty, little torn, and My Little Mijo on the back of the bike. What do you think I'm going to think now? Come on. And now you're frozen like this.
No.
I'm not amused. Oh, you're back. All right.
It'll be interesting to see how this Zoom thing works out.
Oh, I do want to say, I don't know if we've ever really got deep into Micah, but I want to put that out there. He was a later addition, really. As Juliet aged, we realized we needed to delve more into her. And he's probably one of the most fun characters to play because he had actually even though he had trauma, he had a fair bit of stability in his life. And he is just openly who and what he is. And you can all go fuck yourself if you don't like it. And the team, as a extension of his family, are right there beside him. And I just freaking love that.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to write because you never know what the hell he's going to do.
No, and that's what makes it so interesting is they're so genuine. They just go off in these completely unforeseen directions, and then you have to scramble to figure out what the fuck's going on all of a sudden.
And I think we came up with that because Jax, who's another character, has two dads. He was raised by two men who he loves, who adored him.
I remember specifically why we wound up coming up with it is because of the Jax Juliet angle, and we needed Jax to actually realize that she's not some snotty, overly spoiled teen. Hey, look whose phone's still not on vibrate.
No, because it's my mom, and my phone is not on vibrate because it's my mom.
You can still get the alerts. But yeah, we needed Jax to change his view of Juliet for later plots, and we introduced a very personal note for Jax with Micah. And it also helped to play into Cruiser talks a whole lot of shit about all kinds of stuff, but he's actually not a bad guy.
Well, and that's, I think, was a big part of it because Jax is like, Cruiser says, when Cruiser's off on a tangent, he says ridiculous shit. I mean, racist, homophobic,
horribly offensive,
doesn't even make sense. He goes off into these like feuds where he just says shit. And I think that is the moment when Jax calls him on that. Is like, how can you say such fucking homophobic shit, but then you're treating this kid in an entirely different manner than what you say. And generally what you say is what you mean. So what the fuck is going on there? I think that's when Cruiser has to realize that, oh, yeah, sometimes my words actually do carry weight. And it's sort of an evolution of him as a person from that, teenage rebel, say whatever the fuck I want to, like, oh. Yeah.
Well, and he very much,
because he's horrified that they think he's a bigot, he's a bigot, that he's anti-homosexual. Because he's like, I'm not fucking any of that. I'm like, dude, but you.
And he has that conversation while working in the garage with Micah, and Micah got them all matching jumpsuit overalls.
Garage queens.
Garage queens. Yeah. And he's in this conversation, like smoking a cigarette with Jax, going on about, and he's like, well, what the fuck do you think is real? Like what I'm saying or what I'm actually doing? But it is the first time where he's like, you genuinely think that I'm really like an asshole, like a bad asshole, like his dad. And otherwise, like, he's always just been like, no, I just run my mouth and everybody knows that I don't mean anything when I'm pissed off like that. Cause I can't even repeat what he says for a podcast because they're so offensive.
Yeah, it's just
you'll have to read a book.
It's the most provocative things he can think of to start the fight that he wants. It's not what he means, but it's at that moment where he has to realize, oh, now if Jax thinks this, what the hell do Juliet and Micah think? And I think it's the first time he realizes that he's got to watch his words too. That attitude isn't the only thing that matters.
And I think he's also really struggled with, like, he's, for everybody else, he's very clearly in a parental role for Juliet, but in his own head, where he never wants to admit that he's really her father. Never really gives himself the credit of being there in that modeling kind of role. And so he's never really had to acknowledge that, his behavior is what she sees and what she models, even though it's very clear in the series. Even early on in Devil, the first book, Juliet's running her mouth and it's totally what Cruiser would say. And Cruiser catches hell from Katie about that because it's highly inappropriate for a 6-year-old. But like, he still doesn't get that this is her modeling his behavior and idolizing him.
She can't get why he would idolize her at all. And I think he gets on some level that there's a parental role he's filling. He just doesn't think he's worthy of it.
Yeah.
And he'll take all of the rap for the bad stuff and none of the rap for the good stuff.
Yeah.
But I seriously have to get off the podcast now, but we should pick up, if you have a chance tonight to do some.
Yeah, I should be free after the girls go to bed.
All right, so I'm going to leave my stuff up here. Not that it will matter because I'm sure I'll fuck it up somehow. And we can see how this works because you should have the recording because we did it on Zoom.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right,
I got to get my booty in gear because mommy called.
Peace.
Yeah.